You like how I analyze the game? I like how I analyze the game too. What else would you get better? Busch-Gass Gambit? Want it? No, Mr. IM says no. What about now? Would you take it now? Free pawn, free pawn, free pawn. We're going to analyze the game after, and it's just going to be blunder, 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 blunder. Both of us every move. Me for letting him take on e5, and him for not taking on e5. Oh, he does it. Okay. All right. It's not objectively good, but it's objectively fun. That's a good move. That's a good move. Because that was the diagonal I wanted to use. So, what to do? I might just like, because d4 is coming, right? Not a lot I can do about that. d4, queen d2. Okay, here's one thing I can do. So there's no f3 at the moment because of the pin here. And then if I put my rook on e8, looking at maybe that spot. And if you put your knight on c3, then once d4 comes, my bishop can be here. Particularly now, let's say knight c3, d4, and I come in there. So we gambited a pawn because we are the gambit man. Knight c3. So d4, knight a4, rook e2 seems good. I also like this move. I like both these moves. Let's do this. So we're threatening d4 to win a knight. If a3 right now, then rook e2. Maybe? I'm not sure why rook e2, like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely annoying. Let's say d4, but then knight e4. All right, somehow I have all sorts of ideas. Somehow, it's just the power of a gambit. Just the power of sacrificing a pawn. It's just the power of sacrificing a pawn. Yeah, rook e1 here. So I play a3. What if I just, like, keep the pin? Like, I have rook e2, queen c1, and then, like, trade with vague follow-up. Let's just keep the pin. You don't have b4. If bishop a4, d4, takes e6. I don't think you want to make that trade. Okay, you play d4. Now you give me a choice. Which do I want? I like knight e4. Yeah, and I actually think you're in hot water, Mr. German I am. Because if you go queen e3, you're losing because the rook hits you. If you go queen d3, then we trade a bishop e2. And you get forked. So where do you go? You can't go to e1, so you go to c1. But now I just take it. Do I want to land with the knight or do I want to land with the bishop? If I land with the knight, that's fun because knight e2. Can you keep my knight out of e2? You can play king h1. Then my knight goes d2, then queen d2. You're probably fine. So let's land with the bishop. As we land with the bishop, that rook, you are getting toasted. Look at this. Your rooks are getting trapped. The power of the gambit prevails. Compels you. I can just defend c6 even and the rook is still trapped. Okay. What do you think if I just like hung out right there? I can't really. The rook will never have rook b8. But okay, I mean this pawn is a pawn. The pawn is a pawn. Great analysis. It's true. It's true. Okay, why am I thinking of the most obvious move of the game? Just like anything. Anything was fine. It's just a waste of time. Waste of time in 3-0. I don't know. I have ideas of like I should just take the rook. Queen here was not necessary. f6 also just blocks this to take d4, so it was probably not a good idea, all told. But now if I can get... Well, this is interesting because now I want to get to e1. Your rook is not there. So, take. Yeah, that was probably smart. I mean, I've left this kind of hanging out there, which could be tenuous. Like queen e3, things can happen. But it's fine. I mean, I'm just going to be up a piece. Also, bishop f3 is fun. Can I do this? Yeah, why not? Why not? Look, everything defended. Everything defended. Everything defended. Isn't that beautiful? And also, taking the rook, rook e1's going to be mate. We toasted this poor IM with this nasty gambit. So bishop a5, we keep the d4 resource on the board to try to win this knight. Here they absolutely must find f3. F3 hitting the bishop, so taking rook e2 off the table, and after bishop f5 to play d4 themselves, right? Not d4. Or here they played d4 right away, which is a huge blunder because it gave me an 84. What they needed was f3. Now they can do it, right? There was no pin here anymore. My bishop rerouted to that diagonal, so there's going to be no knight e4. There's going to be no rook e2. There's going to be a tempo on my bishop, so d4 here. This is just totally fine for them. Otherwise, bishop f5, just d4. I can keep the pressure going here with something like c5, which actually looks pretty nasty in dc5, 5, d4, right? So we can keep some pressure going also along here, right? So like, for example, we're threatening cd4, winning material. You can't take it. You will lose that. You played f3, opening onto your king, which you need to watch out for. So always good to take advantage of openings onto the king. The king should be on h1 if you do this, if you move that f-pawn. Very important. So d4 played in the game, and now we jump in knight e4, which is correct, not rook e2, because they can just jump here. My rook is hit. Trade here doesn't really yield so much, and they would probably just trade off for it next turn. So in the game, knight e4, and we're using all of our pieces really well. There's no pawn on f3, so I will use that, and I will use that pin. Now you need to find the right square for your queen. Queen c1 is very understandable. The best was actually just to bite the bullet and let this happen. But here we are up in exchange. But they have a pawn for it technically, and their position isn't so bad. In the game, yeah, I mean, you can go onto the E line because, like, takes here wins material. And, I mean, where else do you go? You can't go into this diagonal, so they have to go here. And now knight takes c3, and bishop takes c3. Not only have we gotten our pawn back and maybe another one, but also after the rook moves, we're getting that rook off the board. Here, queen f6 was, yeah, a weird choice. And, you know, I noted that during the game it was a weird choice. Nothing wrong with literally just taking this rook and then just defending this pawn like a normal person. Rook e4 also a good move because that one's a hanging pawn too. But okay, we played a weird move here, queen f6. So looking at d4, looking at some ideas of attacking the king, but really bishop e5 handles things nicely for them, defending d4. The queen goes to g6, after which they actually had a great move, which was bringing the rook here, which neither of us saw. Rook b3, and now they're in a situation where they can really try to bring that rook to g3, which would be very nasty for me because of the problems on g7. So we both missed that resource, after which I would have had to give this up. We both missed that resource. So they played your rook b7, which was a blunder because rook b3 was way better. And also because it gives me, so they're looking at g7 that way, but they should have looked at g7 that way, right? Really creative, nice idea here to find rook b3 or g3, looking at the pattern of where do you want your pieces. Here, so, but f6 deals with this and more because once that bishop moves, now I have rook e1 without that rook defending. So in the game, they take c6, I take here, and here we're just up lots of material, trying to go takes and land the other rook to e1. Rook is still trapped. Queen green, e takes d4 is just nail in the coffin as everything stays defended. Some queen move and takes over here, and, you know, that's 2 pieces up. So GG, that was 23 moves, actually. It was all it took. All it took after they finally on move. I mean, I'm offering in the beginning, I'm offering that pawn like every turn. It was move 6 that they finally took it. All right.
William Grave, the Gambit man, takes his seat at the board. e4, e5, knight f3, bishop c5. The Busch-Gass Gambit on the board. On with the Gambit classes. Hero pawn unlocked.